I'd like to say one more thing. I just didn't invite anybody to this party. I invited people that were influential in my life. In my lodge, it's Quiet Birdman and my grand jury buddies over here, most of them. Who's over there? And all you people that I know from my good folks that I know from around aviation and my coffee clutch buddies. So I appreciate you all coming today. Thank you very much.
A man's greatness does not necessarily come from the amount of money he earns. His greatness can come by simply doing his own life's work well. A man is not necessarily judged by how rich, talented, and famous his children become. Greatness can come in imparting in his offspring great moral value. Lessons taught such as family cohesiveness, honesty, community involvement, charity, a strong sense of right and wrong, and a firm belief in God are the signs of a man's greatness. An aviator's greatness does not necessarily come in the amount of flight time logged, ratings earned, great flights flown, or records broken. It does not necessarily come with low-level aerobatic maneuvers or races won. It can come from employing his talents to help save lives and to search for less fortunate airmen. It can come in imparting those talents to offspring and others, teaching them how to search and save lives. Greatness can come to the aviator who teaches others the correct art of flight and how to defend the homeland using those talents so well taught. Greatness also comes to the aviator who defines his limits and then uses his entire energy to become the best pilot possible within those limits. But most importantly, greatness comes to the aviator who simply survives. By Pat Quinn, 1992. Written as a tribute to his father, but in truth it became a reflection of his own life and legacy.
Bette Midler came out with a song called You Are the Wind Beneath My Wings. Remember that? I'd like to introduce The Wind Beneath My Wings, my wife, Arlen.
It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine, that's your way. can fly higher than an eagle. You are the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. Of course I know I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I wish I
Leave the airplane.
One, two, three. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Pat. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
Earthquakes, fires, floods, riots, high-rise fires. I did them all as a pilot for the Los Angeles Fire Department for over 30 years.
My name is Jeff Moyer, protege, co-worker, and friend of Pat Quinn. I met Pat somewhere around 1984. I was working at Fire Station 60 when Chief Comerford came up to me and told me I was driving him that day. We set off to make the rounds of the battalion, but somehow ended up at San Fernando Airport, where we were to take a fire department helicopter survey of the brush areas. Pat Quinn was our pilot. For some reason, the chief got back, and I rode up front with Pat. As I'm sitting down, Pat says, "Hey, I hear you're a helicopter pilot. Do you want to take the controls?" Silly question. Of course. So off we went. And what was supposed to have been a brush tour ended up being an informal check ride for a prospective fire pilot. Pat returned to Air Ops and started beating the drum about this kid over in Battalion 14 who may just make a good pilot for the fire department one day. Well, that day finally came, and I was thrown into training with Pat as my advanced phase instructor. He took all his years of experience and made sure that I was up to the task of performing as a fire pilot. Pat received the Medal of Valor for a helicopter rescue he made on the cliffs of Point Furman on December 31st, 1979. He authored a manual for firefighting and rescues utilizing helicopters. It was adopted by the industry and used worldwide for more than 20 years. When he retired in 1995, Bell Helicopters sent him around the world lecturing on firefighting and rescue operations with helicopters. And after retiring from the fire department, Pat would often say he'd love to go back and do it all over again. His hangar in Santa Paula is adorned with artifacts, pictures, awards, testimonials, giving tribute to a long and heroic career in aviation and the fire service. Well, I'm sure wherever he is now, he's tinkering in his new hangar and then taking flight on wings of gold.
Hi, I'm Pat Quinn, and this is my aviation history. You know, I used to fly on a T-6 squadron doing search and rescue missions in the high Sierras for many years. And we even searched for an airliner that crashed in the high Sierras during the wintertime. I led the search and rescue of a crew that had crashed at 12,000 feet in the high Sierras. And beyond that, I pushed the high Sierras and other aircraft. And I've flown the Rocky Mountains of Idaho, and I've even flown on the Wrangell Mountains in Alaska. I've even circumnavigated Australia in a light aircraft.
Remember when we vowed the vows and walked the walk and gave our hearts, made the start, and it was hard. We lived and learned life through curves. There was joy, there was hurt. Remember when remember when old ones died and new were born, and life was changed, disassembled, rearranged. We came together, fell apart, and broke each other's hearts. Remember when?
Lo and behold, this young man here came to my rescue and asked me to marry him. And he said, one stipulation is, I don't want you to work. And I thought, why not? I was running out of money. And he stepped in. He was, I don't know if you all know the story, but I had been married to his older brother. And he got killed, so he stepped in and did the biblical thing and took over for the widow. You're supposed to look after your brother's widow.
I wasn't thinking of the Bible at the time.
It's been a great life, roller coaster ride. We've been through a lot of airplanes together. I actually have, over in that corner, see the blue? That one's mine. That's when I got my solo. That's when I soloed. Anyway, the rest of them is his. There's a couple pictures of me in here too. But, yeah, my train of thought. Anyway, it was the best thing I ever did.
When a single mom goes out on a date with somebody new, it always winds up feeling more like a job interview. My mama used to wonder if she'd ever meet someone who wouldn't find out about me and then turn around and run. I met the man I call my dad when I was 5 years old. He took my mom out to a movie, and for once I got to go. A few months later I remember lying there in bed. I overheard him pop the question, and I prayed that she'd say yes. And then all of a sudden, oh, it seemed so strange to me how we went from something's missing to a family. Looking back, all I can say about all the things he did for me is I hope I'm at least half the dad that he didn't have to be. I met the girl that's now my wife about 3 years ago. We had the perfect marriage, but we wanted something more. And now here I stand surrounded by our family and friends, crowded round the nursery window as they bring the baby in. And now all of a sudden, oh, it seems so strange to me how we've gone from something's missing to a family. dad that he didn't have to be. Looking back, all I can say about all the things he did for me is I hope I'm at least half the dad that he didn't have to be. Yeah, I hope I'm at least half the dad that he didn't have to be. Because he didn't have to be. You know he didn't have to be. I can remember when you fit in the palm of my hand. Felt so good in it, no bigger than a minute. And how it amazes me, you're changing with every blink, faster than a flower blooms. They grow up all too soon.
Hi, this is Tori. I just want to say I love and miss my Grandpa Pat so much, and one of my favorite memories of him was spending first Sundays in the hangar with him and listening to him tell all of his favorite stories.
Give them hope, give them praise, give them love every day. Let them cry, let them giggle, let them sleep in the middle. Oh.
Hi, I'm Allie. I'm my grandpa's oldest grandchild. Some of my favorite memories with my grandpa is definitely going to the store. We would get specifically white bread, and then we would go get ice cream, and then we would go to the park and feed the ducks and ate the bread while we fed the ducks. Probably not good for the ducks, but that's okay. My grandpa would always do his duck calls and the ducks would come running. So that was fun. And then obviously him always telling me to artivate my crencels. I'll never know what that means, but that's okay. I remember I used to be secretly annoyed as a child because I didn't know what that meant. And then, yeah, another one of my favorite memories is the last time that I went to go see my grandparents a couple weeks ago, and we had a really great time. And we went to Ojai for the day, got ice cream, and just hung out at the house. And you know, him still always telling me his stories, and he always would quiz us on his stories too. So, but love you, Grandpa.
Hi, Grandma.
You can't hear.
I was gonna say, I don't know.
Right.
You turn around, it's time to let them go. So let them be little, 'cause they're only that way them sleep in the middle. Oh, just let them be little. Let them be little. When you're down and troubled and you need a helping hand.
Well, my name's Christopher Mercer. I'm Uncle Pat's, I guess, great nephew. I was thinking about all the memories I had with Pat, and there's so many that stand out, but there's one in particular that stand out that I'll remember for the rest of my life. Came to the airport, and I haven't flown yet, and I got to fly with Pat for the first time. So it was my brother and I, and we jumped into his Waco, his red Waco biplane, and jumped in that front seat, and my brother sat next to me, and remember my brother reassuring me it's gonna be okay, and we took off. It was awesome. We did like a barrel roll or two, and I was like, wow, it was amazing. And then Pat just takes the plane and just goes as high as he can. I remember just keep climbing, and then next thing you know, he just stalls it out, comes flying back down, and he gets on the radio, and he just starts screaming, "Ah!" And I'm like, as a 5-year-old, I think it was 5 or 6, I am scared out of, all hell. But he just pulls off and pulls it out, and it was awesome. And I just remember sticking my little hand up, and he keeps telling me, and he's told this story probably multiple times, and he sees my little hand with the thumbs up, and I just remember that. And man, that's a memory that I will never forget. But it's been, yeah. Love you, Pat. I miss you. All right.
Keep your head together and call my name out loud now. Soon I'll be knocking upon your door. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running. Oh yes, I will see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, yeah. All you got to do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, ain't it good to know that you've got a friend? People can be so cold. They'll hurt you and desert you. Well, they'll take your soul if you let them. Oh yeah, but don't you let them. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. There's a time in your life when the world is on your side. You might not feel it, you might not see it, but it surrounds you like a light, makes you stronger for the fight. I'm never letting go, gotta learn to grow. Watch me as I touch the sky. the current to be found.
I'm Linda Quinn. I am the favorite daughter-in-law. Well, I'm the only daughter-in-law, but he loved to tell me I was his favorite. So many memories with Pat. Probably my first being when he took me out in his biplane and I said, just don't go upside down because I get sick. And that's what we did. We went upside down, we rolled, we did all sorts of things, and I was sick the rest of the day. So, but had a great time. Never went back in it, but it was great. And so many other memories. Obviously, I've been around over 25 years now. And one of the stories that he loves to tell is when he took our dog Fergie out for a run in the field, and she chased bunnies and just had a great time. And she got back to the van and she just flopped. And he had to bring her the water and she could barely lift her head to drink the water. And she came home with tons of stickers and burrs, and I spent hours getting them out of her. So, but he loves to tell that story. And what else? I don't know. There's just so many stories, we could go on and on. But many great memories, and love you, Pat, and things won't be the same without you.
My name is Jeff Moyer, protege, co-worker, and friend of Pat Quinn. I met Pat somewhere around 1984. I was working at Fire Station 60 when Chief Comerford came up to me and told me I was driving him that day. We set off to make the rounds of the battalion, but somehow ended up at San Fernando Airport, where we were to take a fire department helicopter survey of the brush areas. Pat Quinn was our pilot. For some reason, the chief got in back, and I rode up front with Pat. As I'm sitting down, Pat says, "Hey, I hear you're a helicopter pilot. You want to take the controls?" Oh, silly question. Of course. So off we went. And what was supposed to have been a brush tour ended up being an informal check ride for a prospective fire pilot. Pat returned to Air Ops and started beating the drum about this kid over in Battalion 14 who may just make a good pilot for the fire department one day. Well, that day finally came, and I was thrown into training with Pat as my advanced phase instructor. He took all his years of experience and made sure that I was up to the task of performing as a fire pilot. As a helicopter pilot, one must always be suspicious that if something hasn't gone wrong yet, well, it's about to, and must be prepared to perform an emergency landing, what we call an auto rotation. As opposed to a normal approach of maybe 5 or 10 degrees in an airplane, an auto rotation in a helicopter has an approach angle similar to that of a streamlined manhole cover, and the ground comes up fast. The energy of the rotor, now driven by the air, is saved for the very end, with the noses pitched up, speed dissipated, blade angle changed for a smooth landing. But you have only one shot to get it right. We practiced hundreds of auto rotations with the criteria for accuracy of being able to repeatedly land the helicopter from 500 feet into a 10-foot diameter circle without the engine. Well, I was with him on one flight where he rolled the throttle off, giving me a simulated engine failure, and for some reason the compressor stalled, kind of like a jet engine backfire. Well, a hair went up on the back of Pat's neck. He says, "I got it," and took the controls, entering an auto for what he thought was an actual engine failure. Well, I'm sitting there looking at the gauges, and it's still running. But Pat went ahead and did a beautiful full-down auto rotation into some random little clearing in the hills. As it turns out, a prior model of Jet Ranger belonging to the fire department was notorious for quitting in that exact same fashion. Hence, Pat was spring-loaded to react in the way he did. His skill and airmanship got us on the ground, we sorted out the problem, and off we were again. After finishing training and assigned to Pat's shifts at Air Ops, I was treated to a first-hand glimpse of the famous Quinn temper. After being baited by Larry Harris over something probably insignificant, Pat came across the kitchen table at him ready to kill. Well, we pulled him off and all had a good laugh afterward. Pat was a consummate aviator. Growing up in an aviation family, he'd been flying all his life in just about anything that would get airborne. His pride and joy was his Bucher Jungmann, a World War II German biplane. He hosted fly-ins for that type of plane at Santa Paula, and once even put together a fly-in at Whiteman Airport for fire department members, having fixed-wing licenses that included an air race, landing accuracy contest, and flour sack bombing runs. Great camaraderie, truly old fire department stuff. After his retirement, we stayed in contact, with Pat occasionally calling to see how the weather was in Newhall Pass for a Bucher flight to parts unknown, and with me occasionally dropping in to see him hold court as the Grand Poobah of Santa Paula Airport on display days. Well, I thought I'd made it known to him that when he decided to sell his Bucher, I'd be interested, but apparently that fell on deaf ears, because he sold it and his Jungmeister to some doctors in South Carolina. Shattered, I took to searching the airplane ads, and one day, a couple years later, there it was, same airplane. Long story short, it's back home, and I'm the new curator of a cherished piece of history. I continued to visit Pat by flying his old Bucher to Santa Paula on display days, where it sat front and center in his hangar. Pat was in his element on those days, talking airplanes and helicopters, surrounded by friends and flying machines. Can't say that I've ever seen him happier. Pat received the Medal of Valor for a helicopter rescue he made on the cliffs of Point Furman on December 31st, 1979. He authored a manual for firefighting and rescues utilizing helicopters. It was adopted by the industry and used worldwide for more than 20 years. When he retired in 1995, Bell Helicopters sent him around the world lecturing on firefighting and rescue operations with helicopters. And after retiring from the fire department, Pat would often say he'd love to go back and do it all over again. Among his many contributions to the world of airborne firefighting, he was also the de facto historian for Air Ops, compiling newspaper, magazine articles, and pictures that featured LAFT aircraft and personnel in action. He secured the donation of the LAFT Historical Society's Bell 47 from the city by working closely with the city council. His hangar in Santa Paula is adorned with artifacts, pictures, awards, testimonials, giving tribute to a long and heroic career in aviation and the fire service. Well, I'm sure wherever he is now, he's tinkering in his new hangar and then taking flight on wings of gold.
Hello everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mike Quinn. I'm Pat's youngest son. And my son is Cody Quinn, Pat's only grandson. I think it would be befitting for me to first talk about my dad's greatest public hero in life, who was Teddy Roosevelt. And if you look in the back corner, you'll see a display that my dad put together paying homage to Teddy Roosevelt. And within that display, a speech entitled, "To Dare Greatly." In a moment, I'm going to read that quote from Teddy Roosevelt. But before I do, I'd like to talk a little bit about the passing of Teddy Roosevelt and how it pertains to how I feel about my own father. When Teddy Roosevelt passed away, his eldest son sent out a telegram to his remaining siblings containing 5 simple words. "The old lion is dead." Well, I think it could be said, when referring to my father, I can use the same 5 words. The old lion is dead. He is truly going to be missed, not only by his children, grandchildren, and wife, but so many others whose lives he has touched.
I'm Joe Quinn, Pat's oldest son, and this is my story of a man that was the dad he didn't have to be. I'm a middle school teacher, and in preparing for our first staff meeting of the school year, our principal asked us to honor our hero and create a flyer that contained our hero's picture and 3 words that define greatness. Other teachers chose heroes like King for equality, resistance, and inclusion. One chose Gandhi and wrote in Peace, Courage, and Independence. Someone chose Tubman for freedom, bravery, and leadership. Others mentioned were Parks for her strength and defiance, Mandela for endurance and justice. Perseverance and adversity were mentioned about Keller. One adventurous teacher chose Hillary for his exploration, determination, and teamwork. And of course, some chose the classics like Franklin, Hamilton, Lincoln, and Washington, and connected traits such as innovation, curiosity, service, vision, reform, ambition, integrity, humility, courage. One teacher even chose Kobe Bryant for his excellence, inspiration, and strong work ethic. These are all great, but I didn't need to look to legends. I had my own legend, my own hero, and to me, he embodies all of these traits as well as sharing my last name, Quinn. In June of 1971, my father, Jay Quinn, died while racing T6s at Cape May, New Jersey, while he, along with 3 other pilots, were lost in a catastrophic multi-plane collision. This horrible accident was witnessed by thousands. Among them were my mom and Uncle Pat. In one devastating moment, my family and future had changed forever. Pat had always been my fun-loving uncle, spoiling us, forever teasing us, and making us laugh. After my father passed away, Pat became more than just a fun-loving uncle. He just started to be there for my mom, my brother, and myself. When all the neighborhood kids had all joined Indian guides with their dads, I didn't really feel left out because I didn't have a dad. My Uncle Pat acted as my dad and signed us up. He started staying for dinners, being ever present at the table, listening to my brother and I recount our days, sharing wisdom from his own adventures, and offering the kind of encouragement every child needs. Pat gave us support, adventure, understanding, and a sense that we could always count on him. But this devotion wasn't just to us boys. Uncle Pat became my mom's friend, her steady companion, through some of her hardest moments. Their friendship grew, and day by day, Pat became her supporter, her confidant, and ultimately her loving husband. Together, they rebuilt our family from heartbreak, and in his role at her side, Pat showed a whole new kind of heroism, partnership, steadfast, and a love for my mom deep as any in history. Pat embodied those traits celebrated by all the world: bravery, compassion, perseverance, generosity, dignity, curiosity, resilience, teamwork. But his greatest legacy was in the way he loved and lived and led at home. He wore medals for valor and earned awards for aviation. But it was the simple moments, the sit-down meals, the sport and guidance, and just his daily presence that defined him for me. My flyer that day at school didn't celebrate my Uncle Pat. It didn't celebrate those great men of history written in textbooks. It celebrated my dad, Pat Quinn, because he was the dad that didn't have to be. Love you, Dad. Thank you.
No. No, what I said was that he had just pulled out on the runway in his Buicker, and he had his jacket on and had his helmet on, and he was sitting there and he was kind of looking out and it was a perfect shot of the plane with the mountains in the background. And I sent it to him, and he called me right back, and he said, I'm just writing an article for a magazine, and I've been looking all over for a picture of me in a Buicker. He said, and that's perfect.
So I met Pat Quinn and John Richards at the Ventura County Raceway. I had a boogie board, and I had moved from Wichita, Kansas to Southern California to work for an aerospace company. And I thought, I'm going to learn how to boogie board and surf. So I was out at Surfers Point, and after the 5th time being dragged across the bottom of the ocean, I came up and I heard this most beautiful sound of V8 engines. And I didn't even know there was a racetrack across the street from Surfers Point. So I paddled my butt out of the water, changed into my street clothes, walked across the street to the racetrack, bought a ticket, and went through the tunnel. And I could have turned right or left, but I turned left and went up to the top of the steps. And there sitting in front of me were 2 guys. One guy was wearing a Booker t-shirt and a Santa Paula airport hat, and the other guy was wearing a Ryan t-shirt. And I saw that Booker t-shirt, and at the end of the night I said, hey, that's a really unusual airplane, a great aerobatic airplane. And he goes, well, I own one. And I said, really? He goes, yeah, I'm at Santa Paula. I said, well, I'm flying a super decathlon out of Camarillo. He goes, why don't you fly over tomorrow, take a look at the airplane? And I did. And I never left Santa Paula after that.
My name is Adela Magana, and I am very good friends with Pat. I met Pat when I was a toddler, and I remember I told him that I wanted to be a pilot. He decided to take me under his wing and show me all around his hangar, and he told me all about his firefighter career and aviation career, and I got very inspired by him, and he supported everything that I did, besides loving aviation and airplanes and all. He always supported me. He was always there, and he was like a grandpa to me. He was a very caring man, and I would miss him very much. And I would remember him, and I would love him deeply, and I will miss him very much, and I hope that I get to see him one day.
We're in the hangar one Sunday, and I said something about wanting to go for a ride. I'd never been up in his biplane, the Euchre. He said, well, yeah, let's go. So he gets it out, and it's an open place, front and back, biplane. I get in and we fly around a bit. Coming back in, the front stick is matched to the back stick. Okay, whatever they're both going to do. So we're coming in for landing, and he said, I got a problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, I can't get my stick back far enough. Well, I was fatter then, and I said, Pat, you keep hitting my stomach. It's not going to go back any farther. He said, oh, well, this is going to be my first belly landing. Talking about my belly. Your belly. I got to tell you.
Just good friend. My name is James Coles, and I'm a resident here at Santa Paula and a regular at Santa Paula Airport. And every first Sunday, we used to, that's what we looked forward to, was coming to Pat's hangar and talking to all the other pilots and all of his experience. He had vast amount of experience in different kinds of aircraft. He helped me actually select an ultralight plane to get, because I had some health issues and I wasn't going to be able to get a pilot's license. It's a very long story, but he helped me through that process, and just a great guy. I mean, what could you ask for? We always had lunch here, and we always had candy for the kids and candy for me, because I definitely have the world's worst sweet tooth in the world. And what more can I say? I mean, he will be sorely missed around the airport and around Ventura County and Ventura Fire, and all the stuff that he did was just, yeah, what a very full life, and what a pleasure to have known him.
He wants to get that put in his video for
30 years.
30 years.
Tell the story again, how you came to be.
Well, I just moved in the area, and I came over to get a cup of coffee, and I sat down, and Jack told me, he says, come on over and sit with us. And next thing I know, here I am 30 years later. Still sitting here having a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Talking about reason to fly. Pat loved airplanes, of course, and one day, some time ago, and I can't remember the kind of airplane it was, but he was bragging to all of us that he had bought this airplane for $1. Remember that one? And he would always be talking about that, so we weren't getting tired of hearing the story, but I told him, I said, just to get him to shut up about it, I said, I'll offer to double your money on that airplane, Pat. And for 3 years, I was doubling his money. I think I even offered him triple on that. I was going to give him $3 for that airplane. He never would take it.
about it.
Joe Dory. Sorry to hear Pat's passing. I bought a Cessna 140 from him 20 years ago. My condolences to the family.
He was one of the best people I knew, at work and at play with our airplanes. Pat, you are missed. Rest in peace, my friend. Scott Liefeld.
Dennis Gildehouse. Rest in peace, Pat. May God bless you and your family. I have great memories with you. You will be missed by all who knew you. Gone too soon. Mouse.
Pat by Joe Vasile. Pat was one of the pillars of the Booker movement in the USA, and it is hard to overstate the help, support, and comradeship he provided. Pat owned both Jungmann and Jungmeisters, having imported a number from Switzerland. Pat was the organizer of the Booker fly-ins held in Santa Paula, and so much more. Search for his name on the Booker website, and you will see how important he was to Booker owners. I had the privilege of meeting Pat for the first time sometime in the late 1990s. Some inconsiderate person had grossly abused the FAA's experiment exhibition privileges, and the result was that whole category was shut down. It was termed a moratorium. No certificates of airworthiness were to be issued. Pat traveled to Washington, D.C. at his own expense to lobby the government on behalf of responsible aircraft operators and get things moving again. He showed me all of the evidence he had collected and would present at the meetings. The result was that cooler heads prevailed. Regulations were updated and experimental exhibition certificates were issued again. Who among us would have gone to those lengths? I hope you will share your memories of Pat with me so that they can be shown here and do justice to the special aviator Pat was. From Steve Hawley, Pat has been a friend since 1984 when I first met him in his hangar at Santa Paula. He had a heart of gold and was always ready to help in any way he could, even if it wasn't convenient. He had a gift of making everyone feel a part of the group. I sure will miss him.
So sorry. Love to family and big hugs. First Sundays just won't be the same. Judy McCarthy.
From Duncan Robertson. In 2011, the sudden death of my father and the need to provide future care for my mother prompted the need for me to consider my own future. Add to that, sometime a little later, came the news that the factory in which I had worked on military aircraft production for 38 years was to close in 2013. This prompted me to take early retirement, also knowing my mother would be with us only a relatively short time. What was I going to do for the rest of my life? I had looked at restoring a vintage car or motorbike, but that didn't quite have the appeal I needed. However, a vintage aircraft, well, that was just a dream. Having taken considerable advice, I settled on the idea of finding a Booker Jungmann. But how? An email to Steve Beaver gave me 3 possible contacts in the USA, and subsequent emails gave me 2 replies from gentlemen living in the state of California, one being John Hickman and the other Pat Quinn. Both John and Pat suggested that the easiest way to garner the information I needed was to visit California and they would help. So, an idea was born and a trip planned with the help of these 2 guys. That's how I came to know John and Pat, and after subsequent visits, I would now call each a friend. Without this, and especially the help of Pat Quinn, I would not have ever realized my dream. Subsequently, in Pat I found a guy of great wisdom, a great supporter, and loyal friend. He helped me through the process of finding, purchasing, dismantling, and shipping the aircraft back to the UK by providing me with a base at his home to travel from, along with hours of labor to dismantle and pack the aircraft. This included support in terms of transferring monies from the UK to the people in the US that had to be paid for their help and services. How anyone without local knowledge and the necessary contacts manages this process is almost beyond my understanding. Through all this and during subsequent visits to the US, I got to know Pat and his wife Arliss, who together were hospitable to me beyond what anyone could ever expect. In the early months of 2014, Pat expressed a desire to visit the UK and attend a number of aircraft-related venues and shows. So, an idea was born. I could possibly repay some of the hospitality I had received and also take a break if Pat came to the UK and I provided the accommodation and transport for once. His great friend, Dave Watson, of DH Moth fame, was to attend the DH Moth fly-in at Woburn Abbey, an event rarely staged and open only to owners and members. He promised to provide some tickets, and Pat and I agreed the dates and other venues he wanted to visit. I arranged the logistics, etc. I collected Pat from Terminal 2 at Heathrow, and we set out on a week or so adventure through the UK1 highlight. Apart from the Moth Rally, was a visit to the Shuttleworth collection, where Pat decided he wanted to sit in a Gloucester Gladiator, one of only 2 airworthy aircraft worldwide. Well, I had the contacts and managed to arrange it. This immediately prompted a need to buy and fly one, until I pointed out the probable cost if you could find one. We had a great time together, and I recall an English meal of fish and chips, which became an American-style meal with more ketchup than might be seen as wise. It's been a while since we last met up. On that occasion, Pat's health was starting to fail, and he ended up in hospital. I became his hangar manager and was told, get his Jungmeister ready to be flown by his old buddy Jim White, which we achieved with Jim heading off in the right direction with the intention of doing a buzz job on the hospital. Happy days. I have a load stories and reflections concerning my friend Pat, but will desist from these as it would seem somewhat inappropriate at this time. I will finish by using the phrase often quoted for a departed aviator here in England. Blue skies, Pat.
Aw, Uncle Pat. I always remember him telling us to guess what it meant to artivate your Krenzel. Kendra Edgar.
So sorry. My heart goes out to Aunt Arliss and all the family. Uncle Pat was such a delightful, dear man. So many wonderful memories we shared over the years. He was so much fun and always made us feel welcome. God bless him. Hugs, love, and prayers with you all. Lori Edgar Graves. My heart breaks for your loss. May Pat's legacy live on in your hearts. Such great memories. Sending love and praise to all. Janine McCoy, Baldwin.
A Walker Lake Family. Tribute to Pat by Nelda McCoy. Our hearts are sad, and we weep with you. Arliss, Joe, Mike, and all the rest of your family, as we send you our deepest heartfelt sympathy. In our faith, we know Pat is now with Jesus in heaven, and no doubt he's enjoying a great family reunion as many family aviation stories are probably being told. Our Quinn McCoy Thorne memories began at Walker Lake, Nevada, over 52 years ago, when our Michelle was 2.5 years old and Janine was just 7 months old. This Walker Lake family shares so many treasured memories of camping, swimming, skiing, boating, cliff house dinners, campfire stories, games, s'mores, and seeing our kids enjoy their on-the-water days and sleeping in their sleeping bags on cots at night under the stars. Pat was a very generous man who wore many hats and wore them well. He was a great storyteller of family fun times, his military time, LA Fire Department rescues, his Bucher biplane and other airplanes, as well as their Hover Lover 333 boat that pulled many skiers through Walker's slalom course, as well as pulling Arliss in several 5-mile endurance ski races. He'd tell her, "Now, sweetheart, all you have to do is use the VOV or Very Old Vogue and hang on," which she did very well and won many trophies. Pat was a good teacher, coach, and an encouraging cheerleader for many who tried to learn to perfect a new skill with his words, "You can do it." I was encouraged many times with these words before I swam Walker Lake twice and before entering the slalom course using his strategies. Our families won many trophies, and now we carry these treasured heart memories. When we McCoys moved to Herlong, California, Pat wrote a story about Herlong, and for many years in September, they would fly their plane to Herlong and give us their flyby over our house to say, "Come and get us," so we can all attend the Reno air races. Other Quinn McCoy trips included Disneyland, Cambria, Hearst Castle, and more. When we moved to Ohio, we loved that Pat was an excellent triptych planner, equivalent to an AAA triptych. A memorable and favorite trip was when Ari Liss drove their van from California to Ohio with Pat and Ari Liss's sister Kay. Then together we visited many historic sites in West Virginia, and the DC area. We even had a biplane ride in Virginia. In July 2025, Pat sent our family his last very special 2-page short stories, The Lake and the Person. Pat, you've been a dear friend who was much loved by many. You will be truly missed. Thanks for the memories.
Such heartbreaking news. On behalf of the Thorne family, we all send our love and hugs. So many fond memories. Walker Lake, the cabin, and even the Rose Parade. Please give Arliss a big hug from Mom, Lisa, and I. Prayers that all your fond memories lessen your heartbreak. We love you guys. Cindy Thorne Dolger.
I'm now going to take a moment to read the quoted portion of Teddy Roosevelt's speech entitled "To Dare Greatly," which my father lived his life by. To dare greatly. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows the triumph of high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who knew neither victory nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt. With those words in mind, I think it's only fitting to look at the kind of life that my dad lived. His story is best told through the incredible list of things that he set out to do and did. The list that I'm going to read from is just to give you an idea of part of who my dad was. There's so much more that's impossible to cover in a simple speech. How are you supposed to talk about a lifetime of vacations, a lifetime of experiences, a lifetime of Christmases, Thanksgivings, family events? It's impossible. Okay, here we go. I'm going to break down my dad's accomplishments and interests into two main categories. First, his flying career, his professional achievements, and his civic duties. Second, some of his hobbies and personal passions. My dad's story in aviation began early. At the age of 15, he learned to fly in an Aeronca airplane that his older brother Jay had refurbished in their backyard. Jay was the first to learn, then Tim, and finally my dad, Pat, becoming the third son to earn his pilot's license in the family. At the young age of 19, he joined the LA City Fire Department. Not long after, he was drafted into the National Guard, where he graduated first in his class, a distinction that earned him a transfer into officers' training school. At approximately 5 years into his fire department service, the LA City Fire Department started a helicopter company. My dad immediately applied and was accepted. He would graduate in the helicopter company unit's second class. From there, he built an extraordinary flying career. He logged over 14,000 hours of flight time in both fixed-wing and rotary-winged aircraft. To put that in perspective, most Wright Brother Award recipients record around 4,000 hours of flight time. My dad more than tripled that. He received the Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award for over 50 years of incident-free flying, an achievement few pilots can claim with even 4,000 hours, and he did it with 14,000. During his career with the LA City Fire Department's helicopter unit, he became the most decorated helicopter pilot in the company's history, a distinction that remains today. Among his many rescues, there are two standouts. In 1979, in the middle of the night, he saved two teenagers and a fellow firefighter who had become trapped on an ocean cliffside with the rising tides threatening to sweep them into the ocean, a rescue for which he received the award of Medal of Valor in 1982. Another rescue came during severe flooding when he had airlifted 42 firefighters from their stranded vehicles. He picked the last firefighter up off the roof of the truck with the emergency lights flashing beneath the rising waters. Beyond the rescues, Our dad shaped the field of aerial firefighting when he wrote the instruction manual on how to fight fires with the use of helicopters. For Bell Helicopters, a manual that became the worldwide standard for over 20 years. After his retirement from LA City Fire Department Helicopter Unit, Bell Helicopters sent my dad around the globe as a consultant, giving presentations on fighting fires and aerial rescues by helicopter. And of course, he was a huge supporter of Bell Helicopters, so using Bell Helicopters. And something unbeknownst to the family until recently, my brother recently bumped into a gentleman whose son works for Bell Helicopters, corporate office in Houston, Texas. And he explained to my brother that there's a life-size portrait of my dad hanging in Bell Helicopters' corporate office, which we soon hope to get a photo of. Alongside firefighting, our dad worked as a consultant for Ricarda, an attorney who specializes in getting heliports approved throughout the state of California, which was a role he carried for many years. Again, on his personal side of life, our father owned 66 fixed-wing aircraft and 3 helicopters, for a total of 69 personal aircraft in his lifetime. One of my dad's proudest ventures was organizing a large-scale aviation safaris. Twice, he brought 50 Australians to the United States, renting 30 airplanes and arranging a 30-day tour around the country. Each tour required an extraordinary amount of preparation and arrangements, from not only renting the 30 aircraft, but then getting the approximate 50 pilots approved for flight in the United States. And also the designing and details and the itineraries, the flights, the landings, the daily events that go along with flying 50 Australians around the United States for 30 days. A few years after my dad's safaris, my mom and him participated in a similar 30-day safari around Australia, which was hosted by one of the pilots who'd taken the idea from my dad back to Australia. Okay, now I can talk about our dad's civic life, an area where our dad was equally committed as in many of his exploits in life. He served 2 4-year terms on the Fillmore City Council and for a time was appointed vice mayor. On the 5-man city council, my dad was one of 2 movers and shakers, himself along his partner in crime, Gary Kriegel. Together, among their many accomplishments, their primary being they spearheaded an effort to fire the city of Fillmore's corrupt police chief. And in fact, they took it a step further. They ended up firing the entire police force, bringing in the Ventura County Sheriff's Department. With that single decision, they saved the city over $300,000 annually and provided Fillmore with an additional full-time patrol officer 24 hours a day. Now we can move on to some of our dad's personal interests and accomplishments earlier in life. He spent many weekends in Orange County slalom racing his Opel GT and then later his VW Scirocco. This was just a hobby, but he poured himself into it. He would drive his street car down to the races, then swap all 4 tires for a special set of slalom racing tires and rims he'd carried with him. Week after week, it became part of his rhythm. And although car racing was always an interest, his focus gradually shifted more towards water sports, something that had been a lifelong passion. Our family began vacationing at Walker Lake, Nevada, where my dad met a gentleman named Jack Rourke, a natural promoter, much like my dad. Before long, Jack had turned over to my dad the job of running the annual water ski competition he had hosted for years. My dad took to it wholeheartedly, and soon we were putting on the yearly event ourselves. Not long after, we joined the LA City Firemen's Water Ski Club and attended their yearly water ski tournament and vacation, which took place at Lake McClure, California. Within the very first year, my dad was already promoting and managing the professional aspects of the slalom skiing competition. I still remember attending the yearly awards ceremony, which took place about a month after the actual event itself in a large hall in Southern California, with approximately 200 people in attendance. Still remember walking into that awards ceremony. I was about in the 7th grade at the time, and I asked someone, "Where's my dad?" And the man pointed to the front of the room filled with a couple hundred people and said, "He's up next, he's speaking." And I thought to myself, what the hell is my dad doing up there speaking? We just joined this club. But that was his way. Wherever we went, he immediately stepped in and became a leader. From there, we started traveling all over California and taking part in slalom competitions at multiple lakes. As it turns out, that wasn't enough water skiing for my dad. So when summer ended, he decided to start another club himself. So he started the Lake Piru Boat and Ski Club, a club that grew to over 200 members and thrived for more than a decade. Alongside slalom skiing came another challenge, speed ski racing. He became heavily involved in that sport as well, competing at Lake Mead, Long Beach, Walker Lake, and multiple events across different venues. Eventually, his racing broadened beyond water skiing to full-on boat racing. He competed in several classes, racing not only our family's boats, but also Jack Rourke's tunnel boat in the Parker 9-hour endurance race. Now I'm going to finish up with what my dad says was one of his proudest moments in recent years, and that's his report that he wrote for the Ventura County Grand Jury during one of his multiple terms as a grand jury member. The final outcome of the report was a recommendation for Ventura County to go out and purchase Black Hawk helicopters from the military and turn them into Firehawks for firefighting capabilities. Not long after, the Ventura County Commission took my dad's report and ended up purchasing 4 Black Hawk helicopters, 2 for in-service operation and 2 for parts. So if you live in Ventura County, and you should look up into the sky and see a yellow and blue Black Hawk helicopter flying across the sky, you just have to remember that helicopter is because of our dad.